Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everybody. It's SARA BANTA with Accelerated Health Radio and TV, and I'm talking today about a topic I am beyond passionate about. This is the topic that actually started my business, and I have Heather Hiniker here as well. We're going to join in together on our tips and tools for children and what our children need. Let's go back 11 years ago, and I was dealing with my own health issues, but it wasn't until my 9-year-old son was diagnosed with leukemia that my world stopped and I could throw my health out the window, and it was all about him. And if you're a mom, you know what I'm talking about. I've made mistakes, and hopefully I've made a lot of right moves in the last 11 years as far as what to do with kids' health. With that diagnosis that he had, I came across the Accelerated Silver, and within a year, not only were his cancer cells gone, but his nutritional deficiencies were recovered. And this healthy boy came from a position of didn't want to go to school, didn't want to go to swim lessons, to fast forward as a sophomore breaking records at the national level for rowing, an extremely difficult aerobic and strength sport. And right behind him, my daughter, who I could never get off the couch to go for a bike ride at the age of 4. I always joke that I loved her, but I really didn't like her because she was very difficult. I couldn't get her dressed. She had so little energy because of anemia, asthma, allergies. If someone got sick for 2 days, she got sick for 4 weeks. And that was what we were dealing with her. Well, fast forward, that girl is now committed to USC for rowing. Like I said, in a very endurance and strength heavy sport. I would have never guessed. And I've got my youngest, who was probably the healthiest of all, but she had issues with ADHD, migraines, hormonal issues, even blood sugar issues, and we've taken control of that. So with all of those issues, we've overcome anemia, asthma, allergies, ADHD, hormonal issues, heart palpitations that I haven't even talked about, leaky gut, depression, anxiety, and like I said, leukemia. And not only have we overcome those, but we've also learned how to reach peak performance in sports, school, and just general lifestyle through diet, supplements, and lifestyle choices. They are my inspiration for bringing all of this knowledge to you, because they truly are our future, and the kids are suffering more than ever before. The difficult part in raising kids is convincing them to buy into your advice and protocols. It involves creativity and mostly identifying the goals as theirs, not yours. So you actually have to make them own their health. How do you do that? With each of my kids, each had different personalities and needed convincing in different ways. And I always came down to identifying their goals, whether it was feeling better or performing better in school, eliminating any mood issues, which so many kids are suffering from, improving concentration, alleviating physical pain, or just wanting to reach their peak performance in life. I made it simple. It is your body, your mind. You are in control, not me. I'm taking care of my body. So what are you going to do about it? And you can't complain about these ailments if you're not going to do anything about it. Don't just dump all of your complaints on mom and then say, no, I'm not going to eat right or take these supplements. It doesn't work that way. And that's the way I speak to my kids. These are the tools that I'm willing to supply, as long as you do your part with your food choices, activities, and decisions. And I'm not going to pay for anything unless I see you doing your part. So convincing your children to live that healthy lifestyle. And when children are younger than 12, parents have more control of what they're doing, the supplements and vitamins your kids take, what they're eating, you're cooking for them. So that window is really important. If you're a grandma listening, or if you're a mom and your kids are less than 12, don't have the mentality of, oh, they're young, they can get away with fast food and sodas. It doesn't work that way. You are instilling those lifestyle habits at a very young age. And why give them Coke when they don't even know what Coke tastes like until you introduce it to them? So you really want to take advantage of that window. After the age of 12, they have their own spending money. Typically, they're riding their bikes, and eventually they have a driver's license to get themselves that are places out of your control. Now, you are kind of in control of their spending money, so you have to tool it with that. And remember, who is paying for that cell phone? So you do have things to kind of play with in teaching them how to own their health, right? So it's not that you want to punish them if they're not eating right. You want to get back to teaching your children to live a healthy lifestyle. And I'll take this, I had a conversation with my 16-year-old daughter yesterday. She's complaining that she's not gaining enough muscle quickly. And I said, well, you need to do this. You need to increase your protein intake. You need to follow my protocol that I'm going to get into in a little bit. And she started complaining about the taste of a supplement and this or that. And I looked at her and I said, do you want to achieve your goal or not? It's black and white. It's very simple. And it's not my body. I'm doing what I want to do with my body. Your body is under your control. And that's when the conversation stops. And she looks at me and she says, okay. So it is still, even though the kids are over 12 years old, it's still doable. You really just have to work a little harder on getting them to own their health. So unfortunately, today's food supply is completely depleted of the necessary nutrients for all of us, and especially our children. The marketing of processed foods, refined sugar, alcohol is targeting them, and the standard American diet has been normalized. So what is marketed as food is actually not even real food at all. It's composed of chemicals, GMOs, and overprocessed items. And as a result of them consuming a diet high in these non-foods, in addition to being exposed to exponentially more EMFs from their smartphones and the environmental toxins than ever before, their bodies and minds are completely a disaster. I want you to go on their cell phone and look to see the hours spent on TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and see what is going on in their brain. Never before have rates of type 2 diabetes, ADHD, anxiety, depression, suicide, leaky gut, migraines, menstrual issues, testosterone decline in boys, and autoimmune issues have been higher. And this is not a coincidence. As parents, we are really in a difficult position because it's hard to know what direction to turn and where to go with our kids. So I wanted to go through the basics that every adult and child and pregnant woman needs for health, general health. And the first one is the accelerated silver. This is a no-brainer. And, you can Google the benefits of colloidal silver out there. It's been known for thousands of years. The accelerated silver takes it to a whole nother level where it is enhanced with scalar technology to devitalize bacteria, virus, other foreign pathogens that they're sharing at school. And by keeping their immune system strong, the body engages in those anti-inflammatory processes. And what's so great about the silver, it tastes like water, and children, especially little kids, love it. They want their own bottle and they take ownership of it. It's the first and easiest way to teach a kid how to take ownership of their health. That you will see how kids say, I want my silver, Mom. Give me my silver. I feel so much better. And they feel so special. And you just tell them to keep it in their mouth for a minute, count to, or, say the ABCs and then swallow. And What's great is it really keeps them in school and keeps them off the antibiotics. So that is number one. Number two, Acceleradine. Acceleradine is iodine. It helps support healthy apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, and it's the most active during pregnancy and youth. That means that the body's programmed to kill off cells and divide and continue to grow, right? So during pregnancy and during the puberty and those growth ages, it is really, really important that a child is getting enough iodine. And iodine is deficient in all of our soils and our food supply. Most iodine is actually, that is in supplements, is radioactive or contaminated with heavy metals. So Acceleradine is the only iodine that is 100% bioavailable and gets to all 100 trillion cells in your body, not just your thyroid. It works via that apoptosis for DNA repair from mRNA damage, as well as stabilizing DNA. And in this modern era, threats to children's DNA are overwhelming, like with the EMFs and the heavy metals and radiation. So that will help reverse any damage. It also works via its negative charge to neutralize inherent positive magnetic charges of all the toxins, including graphene oxide, spike proteins, aluminum, radiation. And like I mentioned, it's charged with those scalar frequencies to detox from the heavy metals and radiation. What are issues that show up in kids from a lack of iodine? Mental retardation. Those kids, or I should say pregnant moms that supplement with iodine, actually show a 13.5 point increase in IQ in the fetus. Super important. Kids will show dyslexia, ADHD, hyperactivity, being shorter, decreased child survival, miscarriages, stillbirths, Alzheimer's, and thyroid and breast cancer. All of those things are connected to a lack of iodine. So it's really important to supplement. And what is it doing? It's increasing that IQ. It's increasing your mood. So it really helps fight depression and anxiety. Those things are rampant amongst our children. So 95% of you and children are iodine deficient. So we really need that to help stabilize our mood, open up our pineal gland, and our thyroid, which needs that iodine, is the bridge to from our brain to our body. So all of it's connected. A lot of kids will say, my brain's on fire. I feel like I'm awake. And that's the iodine. Iodine helps negate the EMF side effects. Our youth, like I've mentioned, they're on their smartphones 24/7. And the radiation is literally scrambling your DNA. And our brains are trying to catch up to those frequencies, and it can't. So it's just, everything is rattled. Okay, so iodine also helps support protein synthesis, which is essential for health and for growth and building muscle and growth factors in a child. It also destroys pathogens, mold, fungus, parasites, and even malaria. It supports the immune system, and it eliminates those halogen toxins, the fluoride, the bromide, the chlorine in our water and our food supply. Bromide is in our bread. Okay, how many kids are eating bread on a daily basis? And bromide is outlawed in Europe. There's a reason it's outlawed in Europe. It's one of the top 12 deadliest toxins. And it's in our food. And it's in our food that the kids are eating on a daily basis. The iodine kicks those halogens out of the cells as they are taking it in. Then iodine also regulates estrogen production. Super important for our children and our girls. Did you know that puberty and girls' menstrual cycles are coming as early as the age of 8? That is not normal. That is not normal. Iodine can help regulate those hormones. Okay, so next is the accelerated ancient salt. Most children ingest the wrong salts from processed foods filled with sodium and stripped of all other needed minerals, and they're also full of microplastics. And a lack of all those minerals contained in a complete salt, like the accelerated ancient salt, will lead to dehydration at the cellular level, toxicity, and malnutrition. And a lack of proper salt intake will cause additional issues with the sodium potassium pump in the cells. The pump's job is to put the nutrients into the cells and the toxins out. So using the accelerated ancient salt with 62 minerals will rehydrate the body, improve energy, improve bioelectrical function, and increase mental and physical performance in children. It may also help with their sugar cravings and their cravings for processed foods. So I talked about my son's bout with leukemia at the age of 9. Fast forward to when he was 16 and he was having heart palpitations and his heart was stopping. I remember walking or sleeping, and it was 2 a.m, waking up to the sound of him pounding on his bathroom wall, trying to wake me up. I run into his room and his heart had stopped. He was then pounding on his chest to get his heart to start beating again. What was going on? He had a lack of electrolytes, a lack of potassium and sodium in the wrong ratios. And why was that? He was training for rowing like an elite athlete, but not supplementing like an elite athlete. And he was needing the minerals and the electrolytes. This is where it's super important. You can drink all the water in the world, and it doesn't matter unless you're getting your minerals to rehydrate at the cellular level. And also coffees and the monster drinks and the boba and everything that the kids are drinking, that's dehydrating the cells, let alone not giving it the proper water they need, let alone the electrolytes and the minerals. So really, really important for the kids to be supplementing with the accelerated ancient salt and other electrolyte formulas. Another formula is the Quintessential 0.9. This is essentially composed of the same mineral and electrolyte composition as our blood plasma. So our body is like bathing in itself. It loves it. It's really great to help with it. It helps with a healthier gut and metabolic health in children in general. You can also use Ola Loa, which is an energy drink, no sugar, tastes delicious. It replaces Gatorade, replaces the Cokes and the iced teas and what they're drinking and the monster drinks. It has all of the minerals, the vitamins, and it also is great for people that are suffering from the MTHFR gene mutation. It's got the methylated folate, and it has TMG, NAC, CoQ10, all of the vitamins. Kids love it. That's what I love. So my kids, they do the salt on all their food. They do at least 1 to 2 of the Quintessential a day, and they take the Ola Loa with their workouts. So because they're working out so much, you do need that much. So it depends on how active your kids are. The accelerated cellular detox powder is great for stomach issues, reducing inflammation, helps with bloat and regularity. And for the children, it helps with leaky gut, which is connected to autoimmune issues and mental health issues in kids. And I hate to even put this in here, but for college students or older that may be drinking a little alcohol, the accelerated cellular detox powder does soak that up and reduces the hangover effects. I am not promoting drinking. I just wanted to put that in there. The Megaspore probiotic is a unique probiotic that really helps children, reconditions the gut instead of reseeding the gut with probiotic strains that can't survive the digestion like most probiotics. It helps control the bad bacteria that lead to bloat and dysbiosis and grow the good ones. Okay, so if that's the basic, what I think kids basically need, if your child is suffering from mental health issues or have autoimmune issues, I recommend the accelerated gold, where that has been known for thousands of years to help with anxiety, depression, calming the mind, increasing focus, concentration, and sleep, all factors that improve what's called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and it helps boost that mental well-being in children and adults, of course. I love the story of, I had an autistic child who loved the gold. It calmed his brain down, and he was able to function at a higher level. So his mom would actually give him the gold and the silver. So that is a no-brainer. You can actually mix it with the silver, and so a child can take both of them together, and it helps on all levels. The Nucnomore is the only remedy that zeroes out the body from all non-ionizing and ionizing radiation. I highly recommend your children do this in conjunction with the Acceleradine, as it's going to combat the exposure to the EMFs that they're getting on their smartphones and in school. A lot of schools are making them do things on their iPads and their computers during the day instead of pen and paper. So the Nucnomore is very helpful in reducing that radiation. Gaba is a supplement that I love myself. It's considered an inhibitory neurotransmitter because it blocks and inhibits certain brain signals and decreases activity in your nervous system. And so it can be very helpful in calming the mind as well. It also helps with the spiked proteins that we've been exposed to. So now, there we go. Those are the basic supplements. I want to bring in Heather Hiniker from Ascent Adaptation, which is my playground of amazing technologies, and have her talk about some of the stem cell activation patches that are super helpful for kids. So Heather, join us. And, we think of the patches as anti-aging and reverse aging, and they're only for the people over 40. But no, I can tell you all 5 people in my family wear them. Mm-hmm. So why don't we go through some of the patches you see really helpful in children?
100%. So X49, it's our hope that when our kids are growing, that they have optimal stem cell production. But sometimes we need a little bit of assistance. And something that I kind of go back to was a testimony and a story shared with a child that cut off the top of their little finger. And the doctor said, you know what, we can try to sew it back on, but it probably might die, and they're just not going to have a top of a finger. And the dad's like, I don't know about that. So he started to patch his son with the X39, and you could see it was completely black as he started it. And then within, I think it was a couple weeks, the finger completely grew back. And so it was just that extra assistance with an increase in stem cell, the pluripotent stem cells that are able to turn into any cell the body needs. That was an assistant to that. So I love having the patches in my arsenal. Anytime my daughter, who's now 16, has something acute going on, it's our go-to. She does wear them every day as well. And then some of the other ones, I'm focused on, the teenagers, right? Because I have one. And unfortunately, when she was young, I didn't have access to all of this. I had my mind and what I knew was good for her. So she never had fast food. She never had soda or anything like that. I did what I could, but my goodness, if I could reverse time and know what I know now, when I had an infant and just what to expose them to, the patches would have definitely been on that list. Now she uses the Alavita and Glutathione if she ever has a breakout. Personally, I actually used that this last week. I rarely get breakouts, thank heavens. I'm almost, in my mid 40s. So hopefully I'm past that. But every now and again, something comes up, and literally within 2 days, it was completely gone with that combination of the Alavita and Glutathione. And Glutathione is such an important component when it comes to our immune systems. Breaking down when Sarah's talking about 5G exposure, that's compromising our kids and us. And so if you have something that can help support immune function, glutathione is huge, with everything the kids are being exposed to and certain viruses. That's something that I always have in the arsenal. I personally use it a few times a week on myself. Violet does too, but then especially when we're traveling, we've been going back and forth on airplanes a ton lately. And that is something that I constantly have the whole whole family patch up on the glutathione with the X49 before we get on a plane. And then, Sarah, I'm sure your kids use Aeon. Aeon is one that I definitely expose Violet to. They call it it's the anti-stress patch, anti-inflammation. And, we can all, no matter what our age is, no matter how old we are, there's going to be some kind of inflammation just because of what we're exposed to. So if we can start mitigating that with using the Aeon patch on a daily basis, it's something that's one of my nighttime patches. So I usually have anywhere from 3 to 4 patches on during the day and about 3 patches at night. And same thing with Violet. She tends to wear more of them at night. And I guess, our kids maybe don't want to be walking around with a ton of patches on, especially where, well, I say our kids, but then my husband too. So a lot of times on the areas that you can really see them, I mean, if she's wearing them on her face, it's definitely at nighttime. And then I'm trying to think what else. I mean,
well, real quick, I want to just emphasize a couple things. The glutathione is super important for these kids because it is helping them against that exposure to the EMFs and the Wi-Fi and everything that's going on, and the germs. I mean, we're getting into cold and flu season, guys, and glutathione is really important to help with the immune system. And Alavita, I mentioned on my interview with David Schmidt last week that my nighttime protocol on my face was Aeon on my forehead, Alavita on my chin, glutathione on the right side, and the carnosine on the left. And that helps with my sleep is never below a 95 score on my Aura ring. And that I can have the most stressful stressful day and still sleep with that great sleep. So I wanted to just touch on that. And the Alavita, Heather has gorgeous skin and doesn't really fight any acne issues, but God gave me the blessing of having issues with acne, and I found my key, and that Alavita is huge for acne, and it's very helpful for teenagers as well. So I just wanted to put that in. The Aeon is great for that stress and the sleep too. People sometimes look to Silent Nights for sleep, but the Aeon, the combination of Alavita and Aeon together really calms you down. Most people have amazing sleep with just those two.
Yeah. And the Alavita, it is skin regenerating, it's organ regenerating, but it's also balancing hormones. That's really important for kids as they're going through adolescence. And then, there's some other benefits too, as far as it is anti-inflammation, we're not allowed to say the C word, but the highest amount of inflammation you can have. So it's just a great tool to have in the arsenal for sure. And the sleep, we have a rule, and as a parent, I've tried for a long time to let's turn the phones off at a certain time, and I don't want your phone to be by your bed because of the exposure. She always laughed at me. I had to get her a phone when she was pretty young, just because that time I was a single mom, and I was the one that was always picking her up, and I needed to make sure where she was, so she got a phone. But she's never been allowed to put it in her pocket or have it on her. And she would roll her eyes at me tons of times, but she's seeing, so many of her friends are having issues at young ages. And what is a common denominator that they all do? They're putting their cell phone in their pocket. And that's just especially around the reproductive organs, it's one of the worst things that kids can do. So if anything, if there can be a rule where they have to carry it in their backpack or, have it away from them, like my daughter is not allowed to put the cell phone up to her ear. We always talk on speaker. I don't like her to wear the little ear pods and all of that. So anything you can do to try to mitigate their exposure to the EMF, there's no getting away from it. We all know that, but whatever we can do to mitigate, and then just the distance that we're putting it, near our bodies, that's really important.
So we have a couple questions I want to just tackle real quick. Victor, you asked about if it works for diabetes. So what I recommend, and thank you for bringing this up, the rate of type 2 diabetes, which used to be called adult onset of diabetes, is now being found younger and younger in our children's population. What I recommend for that, the Acceleradine for sure, the accelerated ancient salt that I talked about, but accelerated keto. That will start curbing the cravings of children. when I talk about accelerated keto, I usually talk about intermittent fasting. With children, you want to be careful with the fasting because they are growing and they need the calories. But in a little bit, we're going to get into the dietary protocol that I recommend for children, and that will go along with this. But that will start curbing the cravings and reversing the diabetes. So yes, type 1 diabetes is a different animal, but you can control it. Can you cure it? I'm not saying that you can, but can you control it? Yes. So we'll touch a little bit more on that in a few minutes when we get into the dietary protocols. And Michael asked, his 3-year-old is borderline autistic. I would recommend all of these things because autistic children are finding benefits with these patches, and with the iodine is really important. Accelerated gold, the accelerated salt, get all the junk out of their diet, super important. No gluten, but I would take it to another level, which we're going to get into in a minute. And I also, Heather, you can speak about some of the patches for autism.
Yeah, we have a few clients who started to use them on themselves, and they have children that are on the spectrum, and just the difference in the way they communicate. And from what I've seen, I have a couple of clients that come in. There's just a lot more just interaction as far as connection, and just the sense of anxiety that some of them were dealing with that's not there anymore. I mean, it's pretty profound. I wish I could have a couple of the moms on talking about it because it has been a total game changer. A lot of these people, they're doing the Aeon at nighttime, especially in that category. And then the X39 and X49, we've seen a huge shift in how people are responding.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the X49 patch with children. This is a patch that's based on the AHK copper peptide, but what it helps with it, not only increasing muscle and decreasing fat, which, if your child is fighting obesity or diabetes, blood sugar issues, or if they're an athlete, like my kids wanting to build that muscle, I tell them to do the X49 patch and the perfect aminos, which is 99% absorbed by the body, builds that muscle very effectively. I'm actually diving into how to increase muscle mass in women and men really quickly and the most effectively. And the X49 is a key component to that, with the combination of the perfect aminos and then also with the wild animal protein I'll talk about in a minute. But the other thing I wanted to mention on that is it helps prevent exposure to the radiation in the EMFs. So that's another way to help get them to mitigate those negative side effects from them. It also increases stamina, improves cardiovascular function, focus, and helps with bone density. And I know that bone density issues are in my family, and that's something that I'm definitely having very conscientious of. Before I get into the dietary protocol, is there anything you want to add on the patches, Heather?
Yeah, actually the X49, the AHK copper peptide, hair growth. So I know usually kids don't have a problem with hair growth at all, but what we are seeing here, especially at my facility, is anyone who's had COVID, they have it's like averaging about 25% reduction in hair. And I can speak for myself. I had COVID for the second time in May, and about 8 weeks after, my hair was falling out like crazy. And thankfully I had such a growth spurt when I started to use the X39 and X49. So I felt like I had maybe a little extra than I ever have. Now, continuing to use it, my hair's growing back so fast. So here I am again with all these tiny little sprouts. But, that could be a process for some people. That could be months and months. My daughter had COVID COVID at the same time, she lost 25% as well. But now she has all the little tiny sprouts. So just food for thought, because a lot of people are going through that. And I don't think that's going to be a virus that we get rid of anytime soon. So no, it's not permanent. But if you need help in expediting that process and regrowing the hair, the X49 in combination with the X39 is pretty insane.
I ditto. I have to agree. My hair now, I've never been blessed with great hair, but my hair now is thicker than it was when I was 20 and 30 years old. And your daughter has the most gorgeous, thick, wonderful hair. So for her to notice that she lost hair is a big deal. And that's just pure science, that it had something to do with COVID and that it's now growing back with the help of these things. So as far as diet goes, and especially, as we're talking about children that have goals in life, or they want to be an athlete, or they want to get over their autoimmune issues or their depression, they need protein. 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of desired lean body mass from wild animal protein. More than ever before, we need to get rid of the chicken, the fast food, even conventional beef. They are full of amyloid proteins, which don't get broken down into the body and repackaged to send to your muscles. And this is a process called protein synthesis. So what's happening is your liver, if it's backed up, it is not able to break down those proteins into all the amino acids and then rebuild those amino acids into protein or desired muscle mass. So the wild animal protein not only is providing that protein, it is providing the B vitamins that are not necessarily in vegetables. They have the high omega-3 fatty acids, the collagen, the vitamin D, the vitamin E. You're not getting that through the vegetables. You're surely not getting that through your breads and your grains and your gluten, because those foods are causing leaky gut so that you're not absorbing anything when you eat anything. So it's really important to avoid the things that are causing that lack of nutrient absorption, the fast food, the sodas, the processed foods, and then even the chicken, the turkey to a lesser extent, the pork, conventional beef. So you want to focus on lamb, bison, deer, grass-fed beef, elk, wild salmon, Arctic char. And you know what? I order my meat from these great websites that are super easy. They deliver frozen meat. It's in the freezer. If I want fish and my husband wants steak, it's easy to cook. And the kids want burgers, totally fine. They can pull them out. They know how to cook them. It makes it really easy. And you want to give them that control so that they're not throwing away their lunches at school, that if they're making their lunch with the food coming out of your kitchen, then you're in control, but they also are taking ownership because they're making their lunches with food that you approve of. What's also important about the proteins that I'm talking about, they have the essential amino acids that trigger a hormone called CCK in the gut, telling the brain to suppress the appetite and curb the cravings for processed foods that most children are prone to eat. So what other foods do this? Nothing. Amino acids and the omega-3 fatty acids from wild animal protein. That is why. So that's why you can eat a vegan meal and keep eating and eating and eating and eating and eating, or a Ben & Jerry's or a pizza. But you're not going to binge on a ribeye steak. You're not going to binge on wild salmon. And if you do, it's okay. That means that your body needs that protein. You also want to limit some of the vegetables, grains, and beans that some kids say, I don't like my vegetables. That's okay. You don't know. Maybe your 4-year-old has a stomach ache every time they eat broccoli. Broccoli is a sulfur vegetable. That could be a problem and a trigger for their body. And I get into that on some other podcasts and in my articles. Vegetables, grains, beans, some of them have oxalates, sulfur, lectins. Those things can cause ADHD, leaky gut, autoimmune issues due to the plant poisons. So by eliminating all the beans, grains, and some of the vegetables, except for cucumbers, asparagus, artichoke, zucchini, squash, romaine lettuce, butter, lettuce, celery. You're eliminating the most common offenders. Not every child needs to do this, but become aware of the ones that they tend to not eat. That should be a signal to you to watch them. Your kids need to exercise, move their bodies, get off their phones. It is a non-negotiable. I don't like it when I hear parents say, I can't get my kid off the phone. I can't get them outside. You're the parent who's in control. Be a parent and make it a non-negotiable. Some kids love sports and it isn't an issue, but you need to get them off their phones as much as possible. This will help with type 2 diabetes, heart disease, obesity, ADHD, anxiety, depression, almost every other health issue. Okay, so it is an integral part. It is also stimulating their growth hormone. They're not going to grow if you don't exercise and stimulate the muscles and the bones and everything in that body of theirs. And you have this limited time. And obviously, limit that screen time. I've talked about it before, but you got to limit that screen time as much as possible. I also want to just emphasize, eliminate the processed foods, soda, canola oil, soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup. Not only do these processed foods lead to significant weight gain and insulin resistance and diabetes, but also neuroinflammation, impaired memory, suboptimal synapse health in the brain. That's why we're having a hard time with grades and school and concentration, not just the depression and anxiety and ADHD. Okay. So it's really important to take control of what they're eating. You are in control. As we end here, you're the parent. Even when my kids get to college, I've got a 20-year-old, and he says, Mom, are you going to pay for me going to Chipotle tonight? And I said, no, I give you a budget to go to the market. And that's a pretty good budget for you to buy your wild animal protein. I'm not buying alcohol. I'm not buying the foods that are not promoting your health. You can do whatever you want. I've given him the tools. I've given him the education, and I don't promote or support any of that stuff. Now, if I had a kid that said, well, I'm not going to do that, and, I'm going to go eat whatever I'm going to eat, and I'm going to say, oh, that's interesting. Give me your phone. It's great. That phone is a fantastic bargaining tool. And those kids will do anything for their phone. So that is the last resort. I'm hoping that you're able to have real talks with your kids about what they're doing for their health in the future. I want to let Heather dive deep in the last few minutes on some of the technologies that she has that I use on a daily basis. In fact, I'm going to use one after this show. But a lot of children and my kids have seen a definite benefit from them as well. So Heather, let's touch on your technologies.
Yeah. And I think one of the most important things is, and you also touched on it, it's walking the talk. I mean, we can sit here and tell them what to do, but if we're not doing it ourselves and leading by example, I mean, that's one of the things in parenthood that I've noticed the most. I mean, I had great parents, right? But they would constantly tell me to do things that they weren't doing. So I didn't respect that. So I really keep in check of what I'm telling my daughter to do and making sure I'm following suit, right? And she respects that. And then, there's a lot of times people don't have access to a scent. So I'll go into some really cool things that we have that a lot of kids come in and do and love. But, for the people that don't have access to it, it's as simple as literally going outside barefoot for 20 minutes a day, get some vitamin D with your kids, like make it, a regimen where you're going out, you're playing with the dogs, you're outside, you have that vitamin D, you're grounding with your feet in the earth. I mean, if you can do that 15, 20 minutes a day, you're going to be so far ahead of the game. And again, you're doing something with your kid and showing them, and you're going to see a shift in how they feel just being exposed to those things. For those lucky and in the area in Orange County, we have some incredible modalities. Sarah's coming to do our CVAC pods today. we get a lot of kids that are, they're in high school or even in junior high, and they're training for certain sports, and to give them an upper edge in regards to the increase in VO2 max, the lung capacity, reduction in recovery times. It's the CVAC pods are making more red blood cells. They're increasing endogenous stem cell production and making the mitochondria function the way they need to. Also making more mitochondria, which are the batteries to the cells. So as far as a technology that is fine for all age groups, CVAC would definitely be one of those. There's not many contraindications unless the doctor has told you your child can't fly commercial airlines or you can't fly commercial airlines. CVAC is incredible. And we've had infants that can't even clear their nose. We have different protocols for the younger age groups. So that is one that we always suggest. And then, there's different PMF machines that are great for kids, especially kids that are sedentary, because no matter what your age is, if you're sedentary, you're not getting that blood flow circulating through your body the way you need to. So certain things that increase blood flow within the capillaries, which we have here, I actually have one at home and my daughter does it every single day. That's profound. And then red light therapy. I mean, a lot of times kids are just inside and they're not going outside. And so light is so important for the immune system and for energy and for sleep. So, we have our red light therapy, and especially people that in the winter when they're living where it's mainly dark, even in Idaho, I know we have a place there, and it's so different from here in the West Coast, the amount of darkness or even the cloud cover, and they're not getting that sun. So to go somewhere that has light therapy will help with that. It helps with depression, anxiety, all of that good stuff. So there's other modalities that my daughter uses for focus, that she can actually be doing her homework, listen to a certain app, and it helps with her focus, and she notices a huge difference. So I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has. We're in Newport Beach, but the company's Ascent Adaptation and Regeneration, and you can call in and we'll answer any questions you might have.
Well, thanks, Heather. This has been great, and I really hope it's been helpful to all of you as parents, grandparents, or maybe you're a kid listening in yourself. If you have any questions for me or Heather, just put them in the comments below. Also, please share this with your family and friends, and you can always join my free group coaching on Telegram. The link is below as well. There's no reason not to. It's just free, and I post articles, videos, and troubleshooting ideas on a daily basis. I would love to have you join in. So thanks again for joining us today. And remember, every Tuesday at 1 p.m., I have Accelerated Health Radio and TV with my guests. So tomorrow we will have Kate Vasquez talking about estrogen dominance, hormones, and anxiety and depression. So you don't want to miss that. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks, Heather.